The 2025 meeting of the AMATS Technical Advisory Committee to order. It is 1:02 p.m. Aaron, would you do a roll call for us?
Of course. Member Keegan. Doesn't know she's here. Okay, Member Duber for Member Lindemood. Okay, Member Alimi.
Present.
Thank you. Member Dawad.
Present.
Thank you. Member Rebuffo.
Here.
Thank you. Member Boland.
Here.
Member White.
Here.
Member Coy.
Here.
Member Rudolph. Here. Member Kohlhaas.
Here.
And Member Babb.
Here.
Thank you. You have quorum.
Okay, perfect. Could you also do our public enrollment announcement?
Of course, AMAT's committee meetings are open to the public, and the public is provided an opportunity to comment at each meeting. Business items are first presented by staff or consultant, after which the committee is given an opportunity to discuss the business item. Then the public is invited to formally comment. Each participant will have 3 minutes to speak on their topic. Couple of housekeeping items. If you're joining us virtually and you're not a member of the committee, please turn your camera off when you're not speaking on an item. If you're joining us by phone, to mute and unmute the microphone, press *6. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Next on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion for approving the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, moved by Mr. White, second by Ms. Babb. Do we have any changes for the agenda? Okay, hearing no changes. Are there any objections to approving the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. This meeting, we also have 2 meeting minutes. Do we need to do them separately, or can we do them together as a combined motion?
You can do them together, but if anyone has any edits or stuff, we'll have to do that separately. So I would just do them individually. And then
Okay, do we have a motion for approving the February 6th, 2025 meeting minutes?
Move to approve.
Moved by Ms. Kohlhaas, second by Mr. White. Are there any changes needed to the February minutes? Okay, hearing no changes. Are there any objections to approving the minutes? Hearing none, the February 6th, 2025 minutes are approved. Is there a motion to approve the March 6th, 2025 minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Okay,
Second.
moved by Mr. White, seconded by Mr. Boland. Are there any changes needing to the minutes? Hearing no changes, are there any objections to approving the minutes? Okay, hearing no objections, the March 6th, 2025 minutes are approved. Next, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which are the action items. The action item 5A is the 2050 Transportation Plan Amendment number 2. Is that one that you'll be taking on, Aaron, or is that Christine?
it'll be all me today
Okay,
for all of them. So, okay, everybody. So as you remember, at the November 2024 Policy Committee meeting, staff was directed to remove the Safer Seward Highway project from the 2050 MTP as part of Amendment number 1. The Policy Committee released Amendment number 1 for a 45-day public review. The public review period ended. We received 17 comments. Based on those comments, staff is not recommending any changes to the MTP, aside from obviously the removal of the Safer Seward Highway project, but no additional changes to that. There were a number of comments that were noted about finding a way to move forward with improvements along this portion of the Seward Highway that may be less expensive, less impactful. But honestly, at this time, staff's recommending we use that as a starting point for the next MTP update, so we can have a more robust, holistic discussion instead of a reactionary type of thing at this point. So staff's recommendation is to approve the 2050 MTP Amendment number 1 with the Safer Seward Highway removed and no other changes. Thank you.
okay, are there any questions or comments from the committee? Okay, hearing none. Are there any comments from the public? Anyone online? Okay, no comments online. Anyone in the room? Okay, seeing none in the room. What is the will of the committee?
Move to recommend that the policy committee approve amendment number 1 of the 2050 MTP with the removal of the Seward Highway project portion from
That's probably sufficient. Okay, moved by Ms. Bab. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Kohlhaas. Are there any changes or amendments to the motion requested? Okay. So should I do a roll call or should I just ask for objections?
You can just ask if there are objections. If there are, then we'll do roll call.
Sounds good. Are there any objections to approving the motion? Okay, hearing none, the motion is approved. Let's move on to the next item. Item 5B, air quality conformity demonstration funding program amendment number 3.
Yes, as you know, we have the TIP amendment number 3, or the funding program amendment number 3 that we put out for public comment. As part of that process, we have to do an air quality conformity demonstration because we do have a limited maintenance area out in Eagle River, and we have some changes in that area. So we're required to do an air quality demonstration. Basically, the demonstration is developed to determine whether the changes in the TIP will impact our ability to continue moving forward on air quality, the control measures that we have outlined in the TIP, and the statewide implementation plan. So basically the air quality awareness education campaign, and then the rideshare and transit marketing campaigns. We did an interagency consultation meeting, which took place on February 24th. That gave us the thumbs up and confirmed the approach of the development of the demonstration. We put it out for public comment for 30 days and no comments were received. So staff's recommending the technical advisory committee review and recommend approval to the policy committee of the air quality conformity demonstration. I think I keep mixing up demonstration and determination. I apologize. Demonstration for the TIP amendment number 3. Thank you.
Perfect. It is hard to change terminology.
We do the demonstration, FHWA, FTA does the determination. So just trying to keep them separate.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee? One question I do have is I know that right now with all the dust in the air, it is something just for the public to be aware. This is like the problem time of the year, and just being mindful of creating dust, sweeping and all those activities can really affect how we perform. So just something to be mindful of. Okay, any comments from the public? Nope. Okay. What is the will of the committee?
This is Yemi. I move to recommend the approval of the final air quality conformity demonstration for the 2023-2026 TIP amendment number 3 to the policy committee.
Okay, moved by Mr. Alimi. Seconded by Ms. Bab. Are there any requested edits or amendments? Are there any objections to approving the motion? Okay, hearing none, that motion is approved. And we are on to action item 5C, 2023-2026 funding program amendment number 3.
Yes, so here is the TIP amendment number 3 itself. So the memo before you are just the changes that were made based on comments received during the public comment period. We have a link in there of all the other changes that were made prior to it going out for the public. So I don't want anybody to think that, oh, this memo is only the changes being made for the entire amendment. No, there's a lot. So just remember a reminder on that. I'm not going to go through every change just as a way to help save time, but I did want to call out a few specific things for you all, especially as there are new projects or removed projects. So table 7 under HSIP, we do have a new child project being added for the Anchorage flashing yellow arrows and signal head display improvements. So just more work being done on there, just letting people know there's a parent and child project situation for that project. So you'll see some like duplications of names, but they have different tip need ID numbers, so you can differentiate them. We did have a project, we had 3 other projects added, which is very exciting. We have the Vision Zero speed limit compliance. So it's working with the DOT maintenance and operations staff and the municipality's paint and sign shop for non-ground disturbing improvements that encourage driver compliance with posted speed limits. It's just one of those many efforts being done to help with safety in our community. If you want to scroll down a little more to the next page, people can see the projects. Thank you. Next one is the Mountain View Drive safety improvements. So this is a new project. AMAT's nominated this project for HSIP funding. It got approved, and we're very excited to see that it is being moved forward on. So it's making some much needed safety improvements on Mountain View Drive. And the last one is A Street Road Diet. So this is a new project with the description to remove a lane on the western portion of the roadway between Fireweed and 9th Avenue on A Street. So very excited to see those projects in there. I believe Anna Boson is online if anybody has any questions about those HSIP projects specifically. Yes.
I do have a question. What does it mean western portion? Does that mean the lane on the left as you're going northbound? Because that's the western.
I'm assuming that's what it means. Yes.
Typically, I would think like northern portion, southern portion.
So I'm assuming the western side, left lane going northbound is what Anna says.
Okay. Does it need to be that specific?
This is the description they gave us. So we'll go with it.
If they decided that they wanted, hey, it's gonna work better to actually do the other side, are we stuck in that?
We would have to update it to change that item.
Okay,
And as Anna says, the right lane has transit in it.
got it.
So we need to be mindful of all users of the road when we're looking at removing a lane.
Right. I guess if it was just to remove the barrier, concrete barrier versus like moving curb. Okay. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
I have a thing going.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, sorry.
Okay, the other question that I had, at the bottom, I think there's a typo, there's a percent.
Yes, we saw that. We'll correct it.
Okay.
Okay, table 8, NHS. So there are some changes here. This is the predominant amount of changes based on feedback from the Department of Transportation. So you see a lot of adjustments to project costs, increases, reductions, project scheduling changes. I did want to point out that there is a new project in here, which is kind of exciting. It's the drainage improvements for the Anchorage area. So it's NHS 00017. Next page. There we go, the very last one on that bullet there. So it's exciting to see that DOT is going to be helping with drainage issues in the community. I know this has been a big topic of discussion for everybody recently. There was a project removed as well. Look, if you want to scroll up one, the bottom of the previous page. So we DOT asked for the Glen Highway 1 to 34 rehabilitation, Airport Heights to Parks Highway, Stage 1B major culverts to be removed. My understanding is they're going to be seeking other funding to make this improvement happen. But maybe Luke can provide more clarification on why it's being removed.
So this project here, the stage 1B was to address culverts within the second stage of construction. We thought it might be a good standalone project to go out there and address those culvert crossings in its own project, but we're just going to roll that into the second stage of construction. So it was a potential child project that it will be included in one of the other child projects. So.
Okay. Thank you. And then we made other changes to the table to help clarify some funding information. Table 10, other federal state funding. So there's 2 here I want to note. One, the non-NHS pavement and bridge project was removed. What's happening there is it's being folded into the pavement and bridge project on table 8. So it's only being removed because it's being incorporated into another project, not because the work won't be done. So don't worry. My understanding is DOT will continue to do the work. It's just making it more streamlined and easier for everybody by consolidating the two. And then a new project is being recommended to be added. It's actually a study. It's the Glen Highway Wildlife Vehicle Crossing Mitigation Study. So my understanding is DOT is seeking a discretionary grant for this particular project. They got the discretionary grant for this particular project. Very exciting to hear. So this will be looking at how to help mitigate wildlife vehicle collisions along the Glen Highway. Typically, those can be done with overcrossings that are wildlife specific. However, I will note that JBER has expressed concerns about the impact to the base and the security of the base. So it's going to take a lot of coordination between all the parties for this study. I, for one, am very looking forward to this and hope that DOT will include AMATs on the study project team. Last, it's not on the memo, but I just wanted to make a note for everybody. Some of the comments we received were given to us in a format that wasn't the most helpful. It was very lengthy and time consuming on staffs, both at DOT and ours, to review the comments. So I think what we're going to do moving forward is we're going to develop a template to give to our partner agencies if they have any changes to their projects that they would like to submit as part of this. They can fill out that template and it's in a little easier to use format. So we're all consistent at what we're looking at. The hope here is just to make it to where it takes a little less time to get these things done, as I ran out of time and there are some errors that I will mention, some minor errors. When we made all the technical changes on the funding amounts, I forgot to update the phasing plan for a number of projects as well. So if we moved funding from FY26 or to 25, I didn't update that design would be moved up a year. So between now and the PC meeting, I will review everything and make sure that the phasing plan information is updated accordingly. So I'm happy to help answer any questions, but that's what I have. And the recommendation here is to review and recommend tip 3 to the policy committee based on the public feedback, based on the public feedback. So thank you.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from the committee? Go ahead, Miranda.
Could you give an overview of what was the bulk of the public feedback, highlights?
Yeah, so a lot of the public feedback was really provided to us from Department of Transportation. Did we not post the comment response summary for the tip? It here, I do not see it here. Well, we will make sure to do that for the policy committee. Hold on just a second while I try and find that. Okay, so looking at the comments that were provided, there were 4 pages of comments, so we received 66 comments in here. Most of them came from the Department of Transportation with all the funding changes that we incorporated in. The rest of them came from, BPAC, the Spenard Community Council, Bike Anchorage. I think trying to consolidate their comments, there was a lot of positive supports for projects that were going forward. There was also a lot of concern expressed by delays that are happening on projects. For example, Spenard Road is being delayed through the STIP issues that were raised the last last year or so. So I think there's a lot of disappointment there, and just trying to note, try not to delay projects more as we move forward. We'll do what we can, but sometimes it's out of our control. So there were some comments that we're actually going to be forwarding to the HSIP group for their consideration, because they were asking for some questions on the HSIP projects, or to other project teams like the Glen Highway Artillery Road Interchange project for consideration. The comments we received from the Eagle River community there is do the interchange project and the pathway project for that interchange at the same time. I believe that is the plan, but we're still going to forward these comments to the project managers so they're at least aware of those concerns.
The question was Fireweed, one of those projects that was delayed a little bit.
So, sorry, just a second.
No, Sorry, I was looking. for
We
the
did have a
dates on
little
that.
bit of a delay in the design. We moved the design from 25 to 26, but I think the project is still moving forward as scheduled. I'm looking in the audience to see if that is
Nodding,
correct.
Yes,
The nodding is yes, it is moving forward as scheduled.
thank you.
Go ahead, Ben.
Is there something that we can do as a technical committee to help Aaron and the staff with commenting and the form, the template? That's something we want to try and do, or do we want to give them let staff come up with some workshop this? Because once we get the amendment in place, we've got some time till the next amendment. But is this something that we want to, do we need to specifically request you guys develop something, bring it back and we review it? Or is there something we can do to help?
The plan from my end is I was going to develop that along with a tip schedule type of thing, because one of the things I'm wanting to move forward with after talking with DOT at the peer exchange is setting a tip amendment schedule. So when are we going to do a tip amendment every year? So everybody is aware of it. I can let you know right now, the plan is to do one amendment a year, just because of how long it takes, and to have that released for the public in January. And so we can get it all approved in time. What that does is allows us to set the schedule to provide all that feedback. As part of that process, I was going to bring forward a template for you all to review and provide feedback on whether something was missing, does that work, that kind of stuff. Trying to get some interaction from the committees on this instead of me just being like, yeah, here's a template, use it. But I want to make sure it works for everybody. So I could use your help when it comes back to the committee or review.
And you can proceed on that without us giving any direction one way or the other. 'Cause
You are more than welcome to give me direction if you have specific things you would like me to include in that, but I was planning on moving forward regardless and bringing that back to you all.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
I just want to say thanks to staff. I know it was a quick turnaround between end of the comment period and this TAC meeting, so really appreciate all the work that's represented here.
Thank you to DOT staff as well.
Okay, go ahead. Amanda.
So I'm interested to hear more about the new drainage improvements project that was added. Is that only for NHS roads, or is there an opportunity for MOA to add something similar?
I'm hoping maybe DOT can help answer that.
The project that we have there should help with identifying new issues, inventorying existing infrastructure, and spinning off projects. It's coming out of our Pavement and Bridge Management Fund. We are very aware that a lot of our storm drain infrastructure intersects with the muni storm drain infrastructure. So if you guys have drainage issues that we want to take a look at, and if there's overlaps, let's have those conversations.
Great, thank you.
Okay, other questions or comments? I do have one as I was looking at table 8. The NHS 0017 looks like it's shown 2 different projects with the same number. And in the memo, it has an extra 0 in one of them, and on the table it doesn't. I don't know if this is just like everything coming together so quickly.
001817.
17. Fund Highway Incident Management on the first page, and then
Oh, that's my fault. I will correct that. It should be, we'll go ahead and make it 0020 instead, because it looks like that's the next number in line. So I will note that, just a second.
do all the numbers usually have the same number of digits?
Yes, they should. So if it's in the table or in the memo as an extra digit, then, because it should be 4 0 places and then 3 letters. So it should be NHS 0020.
Yeah, on the memo, it looks like there's a bunch that have 5 digits.
Yeah, that's probably just,
Yeah, it's totally fine. I saw it and I was.
and I think that's one of the things I'll need to work on as well is doing a little bit more on the memo to give a little more information to everybody. The memo may work for us, but I don't know if it necessarily works for the committee members or the public. So with the template description or discussion, we may be working on that as well.
Sounds good. It looks like transit has 5 digits. Anyway, something's. Much.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Have
Go
one
ahead, Deb.
comment. On the pavement preservation projects, I just want to collaborate with AMATs and make sure that there's an opportunity for MOA to understand what the match requirements are from MOA's side. In the future, not now. Like there's one project in there that's 88th, but I just want to make sure that if there's other projects that MOA has a responsibility to provide match for, because right now I just see one number and then a list of projects.
Yeah, we don't call out the pavement projects as individual projects in there. Typically what happens is DOT reaches out to the muni when they need to start that project.
Okay.
So,
Oh, so it's just, how did I see
so
that?
pavement preservation is one line item in there.
Right. And it had an MOA match amount. So I was going to make sure that I understood where that came from.
We
So that
split
we
that amount
program.
between muni and DOT. We just did a flat rate
Okay.
split because it depends on the projects that are put forward and actually acted upon that year. So each project will have its own match information provided. That's what we have in the tip just because of the funding we have. So we
Okay.
just did a flat rate.
Flat
split.
rate. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Any comments from the public? Okay, what's the will of the committee?
I move to recommend to the policy committee approval of tip amendment number 3 based on public feedback.
Okay, moved by Ms. Colhaus, seconded by Mr. Bullen. Any requested amendments? Any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, now we're on to item 5D, the Pavement 2026-2027 work program agreement.
Yes, okay, everybody. So as you know, our work program is what outlines staff tasks over the next 2 years. It's a 2-year period. This document is required. It's one of our main requirements. So we have updated it for the 26-27 period. So just as a reminder, we have elements 100 through 600. 100 through 500 is AMAT staff and air quality staff help. And the 600 is the public transportation side of things. So as a reminder, we're a consolidated planning grant. So we get both FHWA and FTA funding through here. The portion that is transferred from FTA to us for work is directly given to Public Transportation Department, but it still has to be incorporated in our UPWP and approved by the policy committee. So this go around, we made some changes I want to highlight here. Christine helped me put all of this together, including writing the narrative in a much more user-friendly, plain language way. So we really appreciate that effort. Just trying to help be consistent through everything we do. One of the main things we did is we actually deleted task 210 out of here, which is the official streets and highways plan. The reason we did this is the municipality of Anchorage planning department, the long range group, is taking over the official streets and highways plan. AMATs will still help and assist where needed. That will be covered under the local transportation coordination task. Then we have some consolidated / new tasks, or one new task. It's the task 294, transportation efficiency and demand management. One of my favorite things ever. So I love that we have this in here. Basically what we did is we consolidated a couple of tasks. Task 280, intelligent transportation system, and task 293, transportation system management and operations. We also moved anything under here for travel demand management. The idea here is to have one task in our UPWP that focuses on demand management or transportation efficiency. So anything that's ITS, TSMO, TDM, we put it under this one task. It makes it a lot easier for accounting purposes. It makes it a lot easier for the public. It makes it easier for staff, you all, everybody, to just say, where do I go if I want to find out more information on what AMAT staff is going to be doing about transportation demand management? It's in one location. So we're pretty excited there. We made a number of updates, as you can see on here. The MTP, we added in that we're going to be working on it. Land use and transportation, freight mobility, we're going to be updating. And then we have the interactive tip tool. I will let you know that we were not able to get the interactive tip tool done, or will not be able to get it done this fiscal year as part of this UPWP. A lot of work is going to need to go into that. Apparently, nationwide, there are not a lot of pre-made tip tools. Typically, it's just an add-on to a STIP tool that is out there. So we are working on getting some more information on a tip tool and getting a consultant on board to help us develop one. So we may not have it ready for the start of the next tip cycle, which will be happening here in June already. So be prepared for that, but it's something that we want to continue to work on and integrate and do things like have maps attached to all of our projects. Have a tool that's easier for the public to be able to be like, what's happening with this project? Where's the funding? Where is it at? And then get a lot more information out there for them. So there's a lot more here, but that's all we have. What's being asked here is to recommend release of this for a 30-day public comment period to the policy committee. So it'll go out for the public to review. We'll also provide it to our community advisory committee for their review. And then we'll bring back any comments there in June at this point for final approval. In June, we will also bring the budget itself. So right now you don't see the budget with it. That's because we wanted to put this out to see if there are any changes to the narrative before we set the budget. We wanted to make sure that we had that interactivity from the committees and the public. So I'm here to help answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Are there any questions or comments from the committee?
Just want to say how much I appreciate the staff's time and effort in this document. So I know a lot of work went into it, so really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. One question I did have is, with it being more reader friendly, it looks like maybe there's a fair amount that's in here that's in the PPP or participation plan. Is there some of that kind of get I guess integrated into this to have that alignment? Yeah, it's good to have that. So thanks. Another question that I had was, I noticed task 170's performance measures, and wondering, I know that there have been times with some prior plans, like I think the MTP had like list of performance measures. Is that kind of what this is envisioning, is having, it says developing a dashboard for performance measures? Is that kind of what that's looking at? Anyway, I'd be interested just to be engaged to follow up, maybe. Just to understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, so this particular task is there because staff has to spend time on the performance measures. We have, I think, 47 performance measures that are targets that we have to have, performance measures and the associated targets that we have to set through the federal process. So things like the pavement on the NHS or non-interstate NHS, the safety ones, air quality, that kind of stuff. This task here is what we charge our time to when we work on those performance measures. But yes, the idea is to try and get a dashboard so the public can see what our performance measures are, see what our targets, like see the measures, the targets, and how we're doing. Because we need to routinely report on how we're actually doing with them. And just as a reminder, this is our first year that we've set the safety targets, so that'll be our kind of test case for getting a performance measure dashboard put together. We've started some preliminary work, but it's challenging to get it put out in a way that is reader friendly for the public.
And can be maintained if you have that many performance measures, so it's up to date.
That's why we're pretty, I'll be honest, that's why we as staff are pretty reluctant at developing new performance measures because we have so many. That's not to say we won't develop new ones, but to see if we can use what's already required from the federal side to cover most of the things that we want to look at.
Okay, makes sense. And one other question. So this is the narrative. Will the budget come as a separate approval?
It'll come back next time with the narrative. So it'll be the narrative and the budget together because we want you guys to be able to see, okay, here are the tasks. here's how much money you're going to be spending on each task. Are you guys okay with that? Because we have stuff in there also for contractual services, and we want to make sure that you guys are okay with that. We provide some funding to DOT for their staff time to help us with all their effort that they do. And so it's giving you an opportunity to weigh in on the narrative before the budget's fully set, in case you're like, we want to add another task or we want to add more work to this particular task. We need to know that during the comment period, then we can account for that in the budget when we bring it back with the narrative in June.
Okay, so there'll be opportunity when it's supposed to for us to.
Yes, yes. If you don't have anything today, there is still the 30-day plus window to provide feedback on it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, any other questions or comments from the committee? Are there any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, what is the will of the committee?
Move to recommend to the policy committee that they release the 2026-2027 work program narrative for a 30-day public comment period.
Okay, moved by Ms. Bab,
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. White. Do we have any requested amendments?
Who seconded?
Ms.
Mike, you're right. Thank you.
Are there any objections to approving the motion? Okay, hearing none, that motion is approved. Now on to item 5E, the EMAT's comments on the functional classification update.
Hey, everybody. So as you see, our agenda has been pretty full today. So I apologize for that, but it's just one of those months. So this item is before you. DOT is currently working on updating the functional classification for all roadways in the state. And we have the website there for anybody who has any interest or any questions on that. So just quoting from them, Alaska DOT is responsible for making sure all public roads in the state, regardless of who owns them, are properly classified using the guidance from the federal government, which we have a link up there, and input from communities, tribes, agencies. They're required to review the functional classification every 10 years, and they're in the middle of that process now. So it aligns with the census. When that happens, they do this. So as part of this, DOT has been working with different stakeholders. AMATS is one of those stakeholders, and has asked if AMATS has any comments on this functional classification. So one thing to note here is when we're looking at the functional classification, we're looking at it as it stands today, or how the road functions today, now, not how we want it to function in the future. So kind of keep that in mind as I go through the next information. I know there is some desire to make changes to the functional classification, to help with redevelopment and other things like that. We just have to do an analysis now. As it was floated to me, it's very much like, what is the status of the system for the functional classification? So AMAT staff met with Muni staff, and I believe Zach is here. He can help me if I have any issues, thankfully. So we met with Leify, me, Brandon is here as well. Brandon, Zach, and Daniel from Long Range Planning to talk about functional classification and if there are any changes that we want to recommend. So be able to go to the next PDF MOOC. Thank you. This wonderful table that was put together by Leify, thank you so much, outlines all the information that we wanted to provide you today. So we have the roadway itself, the start and end segment of that roadway, what the current functional classification is, what the proposed functional classification is, or our comment that we would like to make, what the current AADT is. As you can see, some of the roads have ranges, and then our justification for why we're recommending this change. Now, there are 8 pages here. I was not going to go through every single road as we have limited time. I do want to let you know a lot of the roads here are minor collector or major collector that the municipality of Anchorage reviewed. Zach helped us with this and really felt it should be more of a local road. And a lot of it is because of the AADT. So there are thresholds that you see. Look, do you want to scroll down just a tiny bit to there? There are thresholds that you see right there. This is from the FHWA Functional Classification Concepts, Criteria, and Procedures 2023 edition that outline what are the AADT thresholds for the different functional classifications. We used this information here to help provide the recommendation. Now, I will note there are some recommendations that we have in here where we say it should be a minor arterial instead of a principal arterial, and the thresholds for the ADT make it could be either one. We just went with the lower functional classification because we felt that's how most of the roads in our community are currently functioning. Now, there are a few roads that I would like to call your attention to, just so you're aware of them as they are significant. The first one is on the first page for Goss Street, Glen Highway to Northern Lights Boulevard. It's currently a principal arterial. We're recommending it be a minor arterial. Reason for it is right at the AADT threshold for minor arterial, and the Muni has a Safe Streets for All grant that they are actively working on to adjust that road. So one of the things we need to think about is, do we have projects underway on these particular roads that could be changing the function classification? There are some, and those are the ones that I'm noting now. Next page, look, if you want to go down to page 3, please. And if you can scroll down to Fireweed Lane. Okay, so we have Fireweed Lane in here. It's currently classified as a minor arterial. We're recommending it a minor collector. The reason for that is there is a project underway to rehabilitate Fireweed Lane, and the project team is actually looking at helping design it as a collector. So looking at the information, looking at the ADT, we reviewed it, and our recommendation is a minor collector. What really matters here for major and minor collector is that there's no difference in the thresholds, but there's a difference in the lane and inside and outside shoulder widths. Any more information, Zach will have to help with that. Sorry, there's only so much my brain can keep track of. Okay, next page, if you could look. So there's some pretty big changes here that we're recommending, and all 3 of them are kind of similar, but I'll go through Inell Street first. Currently, it's a principal arterial. We're recommending it be a minor arterial. A couple reasons for that. The AADT supports a minor arterial. In addition, we do have a pavement project that's coming along that's looking at possibly reducing lanes on that road as well. So we felt that it'd be better if it were a little lower classification. It's still an arterial, it's just a minor one. Now, one of the biggest changes is the Ingergamble-Seward Highway section. So 5th Avenue to 36th. Right now, it's classified as interstate. We're recommending that it be classified as a principal arterial. The main reason for it is the lack of access control through the area. When you look at what an interstate is, that is the Glen Highway or the Seward Highway. Those have limited to no direct land use access, typically at an interchange. But when you look at this portion of Ingergamble and the Seward Highway, it has lots of direct access, lots of driveways, lots of side streets. So our recommendation is to make it a principal arterial. So still at a very high level, just not at the interstate level. Let's see. Next. Sorry, just a quick second. I'm going through. If you want to go down to page 6, please, Mook. Okay, Spinard Road, Hillcrest Drive to Northwood Drive. It is currently minor arterial. We're recommending it be a major collector. So this is to match with what is being done on the Spinard project. So pretty similar to Fireweed, where we're working on those sections of Spinard. We have a project underway right now for the portion from Benson to Minnesota. We have another one starting from Minnesota to Northwood. And then the northern section's already been done, but they've all been narrowed down, so less lanes, wider sidewalks, bike lanes, that kind of stuff. Those are more in line with a major collector or a collector. Major was the one that's selected. Now you may notice we don't touch the portion of Spinard from Northwood to International. That's because we have no project there, and it currently is functioning as a minor arterial. And with no project on the way, we didn't feel comfortable adding that in as part of this project. If we want to come back at a later date to change the classification, there's a different process for that we are working on. Okay, next page, if you would, please. So we have 5th and 6th Avenue. There are 2 things here for 5th and 6th Avenue that I want to mention. The first is Airport Heights to Gamble Street. So this is the Airport Heights interchange to Gamble Street, and that includes the split. So the portion in front of the Wendy's and Taco Bell and stuff is 5th Avenue. And then when it splits into 5th and 6th, we're also including that. We're recommending changing it from interstate to principal arterial. Similar to the Ingergamble and Seward Highway portions, the lack of access control does not meet the interstate freeway standards through that area. Now, the other portion of 5th and 6th that we're recommending a change to is C Street to I. So this is the western portion of 5th and 6th Avenue. And the reason we're recommending this is, what we're recommending here is not to change it to a principal arterial as listed in the tool that DOT has put out there. So DOT has recommended that they up it from minor arterial to principal arterial. We're recommending that it just stay as a minor arterial right now. So that matches up with kind of the current function of it. It also matches up with the change recommended for the I and L street. So you'll have a minor arterial feeding into a minor arterial. And you'll have major arterials on either ends, but it still works. And that's it. There are a lot of changes here. There are a lot of recommendations. I would recommend that if you have any questions, let me know. I may not be able to answer, but I have some help here if you guys need anything. So staff's recommending the Technical Advisory Committee review this list of functional classification comments and recommend approval to the Policy Committee. If the Policy Committee approves these, what would happen is we as AMAT staff would enter this information into the functional classification tool for DOT so they can have it as part of the public record. We would send them this info as well in a letter, but we would do the work in the tool to help them through the process. So. Thank you.
When is the timing? When is that response required to enter it in the tool?
We'll need to, I don't know, but we're shooting for by the end of April. So there should be enough time between when the Policy Committee approves whatever they approve and the end of April to get this information added in. So we have a lot of the information here already. We just need to transfer it over to.
Sounds good. Is it like a public comment period?
Yes, I believe it's open for public right now to review the tool and to provide comments. Oh, and I should note, this only covers the AMATS area. So if the municipality of Anchorage or others want to provide comments outside of the AMATS area, they need to do that on their own as part of that process and go into the tool and provide those comments.
If the municipality wanted to do it separately, could they do it within the AMATS boundary, or is it required to go through AMATS?
Within the AMATS boundary, it needs to go through AMATS. So that's why we sat down and worked with the muni to try and get their feedback on these. And I will be honest, we were pretty conservative in our approach here. You know, as planners, we may have wanted to do more, but with the process that we have in place for this, we were pretty limited to what we had, and we decided to just look at the AADT on here. If we wanted to look at more like driveways and other things, as outlined in the criteria, we would probably be recommending other changes like Tudor Road not being a principal arterial because of the direct access onto it and other things like that. I think that this is a good start, but functional classification needs to be a more of a discussion point as we move forward through all of our processes.
Thanks, Aaron. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Go ahead, Melinda.
Okay, I'm looking at the Forest Park Drive roadway, and it is shown as it's currently major collector and proposed as a minor collector. I believe in the OS&HP it is identified as local, and I know that's a different category. However, because PM&E has a project underway, we're going to continue maintaining the three-way stop control. Three-way stop sign. We are adding traffic calming with vertical measures, and we are also incorporating neighborhood greenway, and it will be posted for a low speed limit. So I see that other road categories with high AADTs are also maintained as a local road. My question is, could this be considered as maintained as a local road? I do know that the residents feel very strongly about that road classification. Comment.
I would actually have to ask Zach Hartman if he can help step in and provide any kind of information. Can Forest Park Drive be downgraded to local instead of collector as part of this effort, or is there a reason we had it as a minor collector?
Zach Hartman, Vision Zero Coordinator, acting traffic signals manager. With me and other staff in the traffic engineering department, we're looking at local versus minor collector. It was very odd because we're used to our thresholds of 2,000, which this would be a local road. But minor collector and kind of this FHWA guidance that this process has to follow includes like busier roads that people are using just to access their home. That's the minor part of minor collector. Yes, it's not really bridging between like two arterials or anything like that, but that's the volume threshold they set. So we're trying to do a earnest set of comments on tweaking this. We followed their own threshold that they set, even if they're a little inconsistent with how the muni categorizes them.
Are there any implications for our classification of the road being a local and this one being a collector?
I don't really know how to answer that. My understanding is that I guess it depends on who's funding it. If the muni's funding it, no, it doesn't make any difference because a lot of this will be based on federal funding. But if AMATS came in and started doing federal funding, we need to work with DOT and the muni to determine what functional classification they want to design it to. It's one of the things that we may need to take a harder look at when we're doing the MTP and the TIP and actually spelling out what functional classification we want the road to be and make sure that matches up with the OS and HP. Because think of it as this is status of the system, the OS and HP is the future, what we're planning for. So if it's a local road in the future, then that's probably what it should be. But the reality is right now it seems to function as a collector.
Is that sufficient?
I mean, because we looked at other projects that are in progress and underway, I think with all the additional measures to slow traffic, dissuade volumes with the traffic calming. That's why I bring it up. Because I do see other categories that have as high AADTs in this table that are still identified as local roads.
So if we propose this, or if we make that change and it goes to DOT, they have the chance to review and accept or not if they so choose, correct?
Yeah, and these are just comments that we're writing. So DOT will have to review them and say yes or no to it in the end. So if there's a desire to change it from what staff is recommending, great, let's do that. It's nice to know. I didn't realize there was a project on Forest Park Drive. Sorry, I'm not aware of it. So
If you want to make a motion, then
Yeah,
put that forward as the option.
okay, I'll
If
do
we
it
vote to-
during edits. We're doing
Oh,
it-
right.
Yeah. Right. I'm learn.
Correct. Thanks for catching me on that. Okay, any other questions or comments from the committee? Are there any comments from the public? Okay, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, Sean Baskey, design lead for the Department for Central Region. I just realized one consideration, current policy and procedure for the Department of Transportation for any work on local roads and minor collectors may include requirement for local governments to provide 100% of the match on any work on any of those roads. With DOT only paying for 100% of the match with passover of ownership to local governments. So I don't say that I disagree with any of the potential recommendations for changes to lower classifications. Just a realization that current policy and procedure for the Department of Transportation is minor collectors and local roads all require some financial influx of money from local. That may be rather significant if we're doing anything on those roads, or if there is a desire to do anything.
Okay, thank you, Sean. So maybe a question for you then is Fireweed Lane. with it, if we're proposing it as a minor collector, and there is the plan for local ownership afterwards, so is there any implications?
I think we've got fireweed taken care of. I'm just thinking of future projects and other kinds of things, so, yeah. I mean, it shows Brake Drive, so it's frontage road to a highway, and it shows recommending dropping it to a local road classification. Does the municipality want to take on ownership of the frontage road to the highway, or want to pay or match to do any improvements, say add a pathway or anything like that south of O'Malley, which, you know, we've heard requests for those kinds of things. I'm just stating what our policy and procedure is, not that I disagree with it. There's implications financially to the municipality potentially with any of these changes.
Okay, sounds good. Go ahead, Megan.
Sean, is that 100% of the match?
Correct.
The match, okay, not 100% of the project.
Yeah, so 10%.
The 9.03%.
Yep.
Okay.
Is that even if it's a DOT owned facility?
Right.
We kind of, anyways.
Okay. So that's, Zach, does that change any of these recommendations in your mind?
I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer that question.
Okay. Sounds good.
Sorry I didn't bring it up earlier. I just
That's all right.
realized some of the implications. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's good to have the opportunity to think through some of those. Okay. Sounds good. Any other comments from the public?
Just had a question related to that. Does that sort of put us at the municipality in a situation where we have roads that we would like to see at a lower classification, but if we request that they are classified at a lower classification, we lose potential sources of funding. But then if we leave them at the higher classification, the design for that road, it may not necessarily match what we want to be for that road in the future. It seems like sort of a catch-22, right? Unless I'm mistaking the situation.
Thoughts from DOT?
Is there an exemption for that match requirement?
If there's anything in there about an exemption.
And you can seek a match, you can seek a waiver, but that has to be approved at the commissioner's office. Seen a waiver approved in a while.
And it's a good question on like if it's an NHS route that we want to be no longer an NHS route, can you use NHS funding to reduce the size of the facility? That's a good question. I don't know if we've come across that in the past. I don't know, Ben, have you seen that?
Definitely some things to process a little bit more. Okay, any other public comments? Okay, what is the will of the committee?
Let's see. I move to recommend approval to the policy committee. This list of functional classification comments to help inform DOT in preparing their official functional classifications. And I don't know if I should do it now, but I'd like to propose an edit on.
Do it as an amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Colha, second by Fab. To forward this, to recommend approval, the policy committee.
Thank you.
So to recommend this list of functional classifications, policy committee for submittal to DOT. And then Are there any requested amendments?
Would you like me to move to amend so that you're not amending your own?
Yeah.
Motion? Move to amend, the Forest Park Drive classification from, what's it,
The
minor,
collector,
proposed minor collector to local.
local.
Okay, moved, and do we have a second?
Okay, if I second it?
Sure.
Okay, I second it.
Okay, moved by Ms. Bab, seconded by Ms. Schoolhouse to amend Forest Park Drive, Hillcrest Drive, same extent, both of those, or did you want to separate Forest Park from Hillcrest?
Same extents.
Okay, to a local road. Are there any objections to the amendment? Okay, hearing no objections, that amendment is approved. Any other requested amendments? Okay, that puts us then. That puts us then on the question of the amended motion. Are there any objections to approving the motion as amended? Before this as amended to the policy committee. Okay, hearing no objections, then the motion as amended is approved. Okay. That means that we move now on to item 5F, the INL pavement preservation project.
Yes, okay, do you guys have your presentation? Okay. So, just so you all know, we have a pavement preservation project underway by AMAT, or funded by AMAT, with the Department of Transportation, and it is for INL from 3rd to 15th Avenue. This project starts as a pavement project, however, as we've been out there working on the project, there's been some desire to maybe do a little bit more work. Both the community and DOT and AMAT staff have been in discussion regarding this or have provided comments on it.
Okay, all right.
There are kind of 4 things to think about here as for this project, as you'll get a presentation on it, whether we keep this as a basic pavement preservation project, whether we do preservation plus ADA upgrades, or if we add signal modifications or lane reductions. So the consultants will give a presentation on this, but the idea to keep in mind is, do we want to make changes to this to make it more than just a pavement project and do more while we're out there? Or do we want to just keep it a pavement project and get it out the door faster? So I can take over whenever you're ready.
Great, appreciate it. 10 minutes, is that good?
Yes, if we could, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, Joe Taylor with Reynolds Gray Associates in Smith Park. Here on this project. Aaron did a good setup for us here. Like I said, it's because it's probably.
You're so smart.
So pretty deep dive on the packet, and I'm going to go through those in the slide deck here in a minute, but I want you to have the real detailed information. But really briefly, Elle and I, 2 corridors, we're thinking of these as a couplet, sort of 3 lanes into downtown, 3 lanes out. The idea here is that these 2 different projects are being sort of delivered as one. The limits are from 3rd to 15th. And this project is a basic, the mission of it right now is a basic preventive maintenance project. So we're dealing with stressed pavement, signs, stripes, ADA curb ramps, and storm drain. It's really what we're focused on. Next slide. Briefly, I've got 2 slides that kind of show this real quick, but the big concept that we want to be mindful of here, I'll get to this at the end of the presentation. Both routes are 3-lane facilities, and there's kind of a real distinct break and feel kind of at the park blocks where the roadways sort of change their nature. So south of the downtown park strip, we have a 3-lane facility with a little bit of flexibility. You can see in the picture up top, we've got a little bit of green space or sidewalks. It gets even more flexible as we head down the hill to 15th. As we get to the park strip, we get much more urban. We start picking up on-street parking, a lot more concrete, a lot more paving. I'm going to show you a typical section here in a few slides that sort of rethinks that. And so we just want to be a little bit mindful about how that changes a bit, a little more flexible to the south, a little trickier as we get into the downtown area. Fairly poor pavement, getting some deep ruts here on L Street. The next slide is just a quick shot of I Street, very same concept. You can see as we get into downtown, we start picking up on-street parking and just much more urban, much more developed as we get south of the park blocks. We've got bus stop amenities and a little bit of green space. So both routes are exactly the same. Next, please. So we did pick up about 108 curb ramp issues when we inspected the curb ramps in probably the last fall. Most of them had, repair recommendations, things that needed to be repaired. We are finding some that don't meet grade. We are finding broken concrete, missing technical warning tiles. So quite a bit of work to do there, in addition to the asphalt and the drainage that I mentioned earlier. So in your packets, we've got L and I Street. You've got each in a packet, and it just shows a roll plot and a basic layout of the pavement preservation project, the basic charge that we're under to deliver on this. Signs, pavement, storm drain, curb ramps. About $6 million plus or minus for either route. And the one thing I want to stress on that is we don't have our storm drain work done yet. You'll probably see, if you're paying attention in the next day or two, we've started to hood the downtown parking meters. Our guys are going to be out there inspecting and doing their storm drain inspections right now. I hope to, and I expect to drive that number down a bit. So that's a pretty good conservative number. It's based on replacing storm drain, not rehabbing it. We're going to try to do trenchless work. So every number we present here today is built on that kind of conservative assumption. But about $6 million for either corridor is the basic charge. As we've been working on the project, we've had, it's become very apparent that there are a number of well-known and well-identified sort of needs on these two corridors, both by the public and by the agencies. A number of things have come to the project team. And so what we were charged with and asked to do was develop this sort of menu that you have in front of you of sort of different incremental steps that we might add to this project in the spirit of a preventative maintenance project. And then we have one at the end that is a sort of repurpose and redesign that I'll get to. So option 2, this is very similar to what is being done on the Northern Lights sidewalk project. The concept here is we do the basic preventative maintenance, but we go after the things that we know aren't meeting current ADA. So we found a number of pieces of sidewalk. Here's a little pop out there. In your packets, we've circled in yellow every piece where our sidewalks are deficient. They don't meet grade. They're too narrow. So this concept goes, gets that sidewalk and tries to get that up to standard. With that comes working on the driveways that are too steep and don't meet grade. You'll notice a pretty big jump in number from the basic pavement preservation to this upgrade, about $2.5 million. Certainly a lot of that is in concrete and sidewalk and pavement, but this option includes adding audible push buttons at our crossings. So that's an agency identified need. There's no signals. We don't have push button signals at our intersections right now. So it's a little bit of a big lift in that we get into electrical. We get into a much more deeper piece of work, and that's what's sort of driving that. But when I go to option 3 on the next slide, this is a concept that builds on that, because in option 2, when you make the investment for the electrical upgrades, which comes with new controller cabinets, once you've made that investment, putting additional things into the system becomes incrementally easier to do. So option 3 is a concept where we do basic pavement preservation. We do the ADA that I was talking about in option 2, including the electrical work. But here in option 3, there are very specific needs in addition to just the auto push buttons that the agencies have identified. One is right here at New Sagaya on this pole, this pop out that I'm showing here. We've got a load center attached to a pole. I mean, this is a dangerous situation. If we were to have a crash there, we would have electrical lines in the street. So these are very specific, like I said, very detailed. There's a couple intersections where flashing yellow arrows have been identified. I think the PTZ cameras is already being handled elsewhere, but radar detection has been identified here. So an incremental step from the last option, but plugging in some real specific asks here. And then when we get to option 4, this is a completely different concept. Project team was asked to look at an option that repurposes the roadway and sort of redesigns that typical section. In this concept, the idea here, I'm going to show you a typical section. I'll explain this, but I'll talk through a couple other ideas that have been discussed. So in this idea, what would happen is one lane on each route in the couplet would be removed. And so there's a couple ways that we could do that. In this case, what we're talking about is moving the curb line. So you see that those numbers really jump even more from the previous options. And that's driven a lot by reconstructing storm drain and all of the kind of the subgrade work that would have to do when we move that curb line to basically remove a lane. And the idea here is we learned from our pilot project. I think the city learned from the pilot project last year, a lot of benefits. If you don't need all of the lanes, you can bring friction into your corridors, slow your traffic. You can bring your noise down. You can make a much more comfortable environment for everybody. And then if you have that space, there's a number of things that we could repurpose, reallocate that space to. One just simply being snow storage. We've been hearing about that on all of our projects. So just having space to plow snow in the wintertime would leave everybody. Or on the next slide, this is the kind of the typical section that our $10 million is sort of framed up around. So in this instance, the concept here would be take the existing curb and slide along the existing roadway until you've closed the lane. Just move everything in. And then when you've done that, you've gained back that 11 feet from the lane. You have your existing sidewalk or your existing space that we were showing previously. You've got about 15 to 17 feet now to work with. So in this concept, we just simply went with the 10-foot pathway and a 7-foot buffer that we would pull out of the city design criteria manual. And that's what that looks like. Pretty, really geometrically design-wise, pretty easy to do on the south part of the corridor, where I was talking earlier about there already being green space. As we get into the urban environment downtown and things are more built out, we have to be pretty smart about how we use that green space in order to make sure that we're matching grades at the back side of the pathway, because it's all built out and we can't be raising grade. But it is doable. But this comes with redoing storm drain and reconstructing a lot of that. So picture this, we're talking about that, and that's like our worst case scenario for cost. But here's another concept or another idea of that we want to talk through. It's kind of hard to draw and show. But the idea is, instead of moving the curb line and rebuilding the storm drain and kind of buying that work, there is an alternative or a concept where we could stripe that lane out, just simply use paint and stripe that lane out. It's a little more complicated than that because we would have to go at our intersections, kind of intersection by intersection, and construct curb bulb outs and make sure that we're really taking care of removing the lane and making it to where it's physically not able to travel through that. We also do have to look at turning movements. We've got 27,000 cars collectively on these two facilities. So if you think about it as a 6-lane facility with pushing 30,000 cars, we would have to do a little bit of a traffic look to make sure that we're handling our left turns okay. But from a signal standpoint, we would have to modify some signals. We would have to move some signal heads and get everything sort of lined up to make that go. But we could save the money from repaving that third lane. It wouldn't need to be resurfaced if we were to stripe it out. And we could then just work on the curb bulbs and kind of a more minimal approach to the signals. So We haven't costed that out. We haven't laid that out. We wanted to show this sort of worst case from a cost perspective scenario, and then talk through the striping option. But we believe that's going to be closer to the pavement preservation costs, depending on what we do with the electrical work. Okay, so I've shown all these examples off of I Street. The packets are a detailed layout of both I and L. They're very, very similar. But really, this brings us to the last slide of our presentation, kind of the reason why we're here today.
And just real quick, and then there was another option 5 that was tossed at us. You know, most of these signals were made in the 80s or installed in the 80s. And so, you know, they're at the end of their life. We're already potentially doing, you know, major rework on almost all the signals and the cabinets and everything else. And so, you know, there's another request to potentially rework all the signals as part of that. We don't have a cost for that, but that would be option 5 is you're already redoing most of it. They were put in the 80s. You know, do we go in and revamp it? We know we're going to have to do that at some point in the next, you know, 10, 20 years. We either need to start, you know, tackling it on a project by project basis, or, you know, a lot of the stuff is already available. So, and then another quick note on that option 4. Typically, we're looking to local governments when we do complete revamps of the typical section. Local governments to take on ownership of those facilities. We'd probably want to have a quick discussion about the implications of something like that at some point in time. I know that there's requests for some of the downtown streets to be passed over to the muni, and so this might be another one of those discussions. If we're giving it a new lease on life in a smaller functional classification kind of style.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sean. So in conclusion, really so even that 5th option is pretty breaking as well. So there's no shortage of needs on the project beyond shave and pave and handle the pavement. Where we are as a project team, about 65% complete. We're approaching a plans in hand submittal to DOT pretty quickly. And that puts the projects both I and L kind of on schedule for a construction project in 2026. And really, it's a matter of what we need to do for right-of-way permitting to redo a lot of these curb ramps that are really close to the right-of-way. That's going to be a little bit tricky as to when we can hit in 26 early or late. That's where the project's at. On schedule to complete its original mission. And then the request or the ask of the project to this body is, what say you with respect to options and the add-ons? They're going to add at least a year. Best case scenario for any of these, and then depending on how deep we get into signals and into the electrical work, it could push us almost 2 years into the future. So that's kind of the seeking clarification on what I'd like us to do with this.
Basically, AMAT's funded projects want to spend the money on. We realize that maybe just resurfacing may not be the desire. And so we need that clarification before we proceed.
Sounds good. Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Go ahead, Lisa.
I do have a question for the team. If option 4 were the preferred option and that pushes the timeline out a couple years, is there any consideration for some temporary installation in the meantime that would reduce remove the lane and allow it to figure out between now and then how it functions?
I mean, there's a potential option with a pilot project that we could throw something in, but that would likely only be for, you know, summer or something like that. Resource wise, we can do anything that, you know, the committee desires. The policy, obviously through recommendations, through the TAC, the thing I would warn is everything's behind schedule right now. And so, if we start doing other interim projects, it will affect not only other AMETS projects, but, the delivery of this project, it'll divert resources away from it. So anything's possible. There's just implications.
Thank you.
So on what we have before us, we've got options 1, 2, 3, 4. The option number 5, if I heard right, was add replacement of signal equipment, given that that's already going to be a need upcoming, and it's not costed yet. And then another option number 6 would be, I know that there is conversation of potentially the municipality taking over ownership of 5th and 6th and doing something different there, which in my mind also means INL in the downtown area might look different as well. So I guess I would say option number 6 would be convert to two-way north of 9th Avenue, have it be a downtown street instead of a highway. So those are some just different options that starts. I think if we go in the reconstruction path and not pavement preservation, option number 4 or 5 or 6, it's probably not a simple just remove a lane. It's probably also look at some of these other options and really weigh the opportunity. So those are just some of the thoughts that I've been having with regards to.
Yeah, just to quickly touch on that as well.
Go ahead.
Just option 4, 5, or 6 probably end up requiring the L&I pavement preservation project to move into a named tip project would be my guess. No longer sitting in table 6. The character of the work is starting to get a little different.
For sure.
Yeah, we do, just like we did with the Northern Lights, we pull it out as a separate project through an amendment process, so the public is aware of it, make sure everybody is on, we'd update the description, all that kind of stuff. So it would add to the process.
At which option number does that trigger that pulling it into its own project and tip amendment?
I'd say 4 or greater.
4 greater.
4 or greater.
I
Can I ask about the variety of 4 that just includes the paint version? Would that require a named project?
So I think it's in the gray. Curb bulb outs, we're already going to have to do some work on the each of the curb ramps anyways. It's in the gray. I don't know that we've gotten a clear direction or a clear opinions from FHWA on eligibility for a pavement preservation.
And of course, the reason I ask that is because if that's the option that would allow us the function that we want, while still retaining the ability of the team to move forward with the design and keep it as a pavement preservation project. Option in my mind. And I apologize, I have to step out of the meeting. I have another meeting I have to go to, but I'll maybe encourage the committee to consider that version of option 4 when you do make your recommendation.
So any other questions or comments from the committee?
Question for Aaron. Would it be possible if the desire was to move this out of the PM list of projects and into a named project? Could we catch this tip amendment, or are we too far down the road?
We're too far late. We'd have to put the tip amendment back out for public comment if we wanted to do that. Because it didn't come up during the public period. We didn't know about it beforehand. So the public hasn't had an opportunity to weigh in on it. Technically, I haven't done any fiscal analysis to determine cost and impacts like that. I will say that if you want to go with one of the higher options, we can afford it, but it means other projects may not get started in the next tip cycle, or other projects get delayed. So it's kind of one of those, like, what do we do? I will also note, if we do something smaller out here, say we go with a cheaper, quicker option, the likelihood of us coming back with a project to fix some of these other things in the future is significantly lower based on our historical trends. Once an area receives a project, it typically doesn't get another one for a long time. So that's why staff was asking, what can we get done now while we're out there to fix the problems that the community's been asking to be addressed?
What would the implications be of going through another public cycle on the TIP Amendment 3? Does that affect current year's projects? And
Yeah.
things?
That would be, I would strongly not recommend
Agree.
Or tough obligating this year.
We need to get this TIP amendment approved and get this in
Right.
place. Yeah, we don't want to put this back out for another review.
Yeah, because we still have to go through the DOT FHWA approval of TIP Amendment 3. So where we have, we're gonna be at the end here soon.
Mhm.
Very sweat.
Okay. Okay, so do you have another comment?
Just a quick, kind of a curious question. On option number 1, how is it that it doesn't trigger the ADA upgrades? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so we're required to do curb ramps, but not any of the other facilities in between. So, we've got, for instance, a Minnesota sidewalk repair project. We've got a
Okay,
sidewalk repair project on Northern Lights. And so this is like bringing in all those other facilities in between curb ramps. On pavement preservation, only curb ramps are required.
Gotcha.
So that's your,
okay,
that's your
thank
bare
you.
bones. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I will say something that's kind of crept up a number of times that we've talked about. Our pavement projects seem to be continually expanding as time goes on because there's so much need out there. So as part of the next tip cycle, we may have to have a discussion on how we want to move forward with pavement projects, because this is another project we're coming back with and saying we have more we need to do, it'll cost more, take more time, that kind of stuff. So
And those aren't just AMAT's projects. That's a lot of DOT projects as well, where these scopes continue to balloon, and not the intent of a pavement preservation program. Want stuff that we can get out there, repair quickly. And when we have situations like this, where you've got opportunities to do more within a corridor, makes sense to split them out there. So. Sorry, Ben stepped up.
No. And I was just gonna, Aaron, we've got that Minnesota INL plan, corridor study. And I don't think anything in here is not gonna be consistent with where we're headed, but just making sure that we keep the teams all connected, so that if anything we decide here, that's gonna have an impact on that planning study, because we may be implementing some of the things that we're already thinking about in that planning study.
yeah, as far as I know, and James Starzyk, the project manager, is comment on this, so please correct me if I'm wrong, James, if you're here. What we're looking at as part of the effort for this pavement project is consistent with what we've heard as part of that study throughout. So I don't think anything we choose here is going to be inconsistent or cause any problems for us based on that study. That study can incorporate any change that's made with this pavement project. I guess, can I ask Sean, or the team, how serious is the pavement condition right now?
Well, I mean, I can take that one. It's spotty, it's segmented. There are, if you go to the GIS database, that's kind of talks about this. There's chunks, blocks that are just coded red in poor.
Mhm.
There's some other spots that are in pretty good condition. So it escapes me which one's which. One has got rutting 0.7 of an inch deep, 7 inches deep. And one's got ruts that are deeper than that. And what I do know is like the depth of the ruts we've seen time we started the project to today are getting deeper. The roughness is graded poor to fair, and then just depending on where you are, the ruts are graded kind of poor to fair. And there are good spots, so it's kind of blocked by that.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the committee?
A comment. I'm glad that we're thinking about the signal condition, because when PM&E looked at the whole downtown district of the condition of the traffic signalization and lighting, it is noted that it's aging infrastructure, and for us to be able to put the blinders on and just do a maintenance type of project. It was not realistic to just only replace that type of infrastructure without touching the road surfaces. And if there is an opportunity where you're potentially going to change curb line, and it would make sense to take a look at the signals condition at the same time. Just because follow-on standalone projects is not realistic. So I was just making that comment.
Okay, thanks, Magda. Other questions or comments? Okay, are there any comments from the public? You guys are probably good to sit down. We might have some more questions for you, but any comments from the public? Okay. I see a comment that Aaron is correct on the INL project in alignment with current Minnesota Northern Light, the Minnesota and INL corridor plan development. And then it looks like there's a.
That'll be during public. It looks like they're mentioning this part number 8.
Perfect. So then we're here at the will of the committee. I guess what is it that is really needed from us, Aaron, at this point? Is it to make a decision on whether we want to change, and do we put forward an option, or?
So staff's recommendation is to do it all. We're out there, let's get it done. Because it's getting harder and harder to talk to the community and be like, why didn't you do this work? Why didn't you make this happen while you're out there? Why are we going to come back with another project at a later date that'll eventually address the issues? But I understand that is a lot that we're asking, because it will mean a longer time between now and when the project gets done. It's more money, etc. But staff's still going to go ahead and provide that recommendation to you to do all of that's been identified, all the options. I guess technically we didn't have options 5 and 6 to put on here, but I would recommend you include a discussion about transfer of ownership if there's an interest in there, and then doing any of the additional signal work. I guess we need to know how expensive that is, if it's above and beyond the amount that has been listed here today, because signals get very expensive.
Is that extra, like looking at an option 5 addition or option 6 two-way for the policy committee? Is 2 weeks enough time to get the rough cost similar how there's a basic bid cost here on the table? Is that a reasonable request?
I think.
Sounds good. So I guess what is the will of the committee?
A shot.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Move to recommend to the policy committee moving INL pavement project or pavement preservation project from the preventative maintenance list to a standalone project, so the design team is able to consider options 1 through 4 and additional options discussed at the TAC meeting. Aaron was grimacing there.
Maybe
Maybe I didn't.
Okay. I'll read it back and just say, recommended the policy committee moving INL pavement preservation project from the preventative maintenance program to a standalone project. So the design team can consider options 1 through 4 and additional options discussed during the TAC. Did you guys want to, is that correct?
You're not going to hurt my feelings. Yeah, that sounds right to me, but if anybody's got any friendly amendments or.
Okay, do we have a
other
second?
thoughts on it?
Okay, moved by Mr. Bullen, seconded by Ms. Duber. I guess the question that I have real quick. Right now, the decision would be this doing a change. So determining exactly what that change is have until maybe the next tip cycle, so we have a little bit more time. At least now we know that the change is like what would the policy committee votes on it, approve it. Is that accurate? That really the decision point we need right now is whether to do a change and exactly what that change is. we've got a little bit of time. We don't have to figure that out yet.
Yeah, we don't have to have the specifics. I think what the project team needs to know is, are we wanting a basic pavement? Or do we want to do more and call it out as its own standalone project, which would require more money and effort? I think that'll give them enough information to move forward based on that. And then the specifics we can figure out between now and the next tip amendment.
Okay, so it sounds like you're
Yeah.
doing that for us.
That was kind of the intent of my motion there. Let's dig into the details. I think there's a lot of good opportunities here.
Okay. And part of what we'll do is we'll provide the information to the policy committee about the 5 and 6 options the 5th and 6th options that we've talked about today. So they are aware of what was discussed.
Perfect. Okay, are there any requested amendment? The very well stated motion. That was a good job. Okay, any amendments? Hearing none, are there any objections to approving the motion? Okay, hearing no objections, the motion is approved. And that puts us on to informational items, item 6A.
Yes, I just wanted to give an update to the technical advisory committee that at the last policy committee meeting, the PC directed staff to set up a work session to discuss the boundary and operating agreement changes that were identified in the letter from the commissioner's office. The TAC recommended a third-party legal review. The policy committee had a pretty good discussion about what exactly we were to send out to the third-party review. What do we expect from that third-party review? You know, I think it was noted they didn't want Aaron to be on the hook to explain a legal opinion to the committees. So maybe get from that third-party review somebody to attend and explain the legal opinion and what it means. Are there additional questions that wanted to be asked or additional things? So it sounds like more discussion is needed to determine what exactly the policy committee wants to send out. And if it's more than just a letter, does it include AMAT's staff comments or the TAC comments? So we sent out a doodle poll. We only got one PC member responding to that doodle poll. So we will send out the doodle poll again tomorrow to try and set up a work session prior to the next policy committee meeting. If that doesn't happen, then we'll have to try and get it done during May and have it available for the June policy committee meeting.
Is it for the policy committee only or? Okay.
Yeah, you guys have had your thing. So the work session will be, other people can attend. So all work sessions are gonna be open to the public. We'll notice it. So you guys are gonna be uninvited. I will send it to you so you're aware of it and can attend. The point really is for the policy committee to have that discussion and not make a decision, but be like, this is what we want you to bring back as staff for us to make an actual formal vote on. So please come and attend and provide any feedback you have.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. So item 6B.
Yes, real quick. So the next TAC and PC meeting in May is canceled. Just to let everybody know, I'll be out of the country, so I will not be available. And we're gonna go ahead and just give everybody a break. It's been a very long little while, and so that's why this meeting was a little crammed full. The June meeting at this point, I'll give you a heads up on where we're at. We're gonna have an update on the performance measures agreement between the MPOs and DOT. So how we develop our performance measures as each organization, how we interact with each other. MVP is a new MPO that needs to be added to that agreement, and then there's some other smaller tweaks.
Seriously?
We're also gonna bring back the 3C process document for discussion. So we can have that at that time. And sorry, that was pretty good, dude. I don't know. Sorry, Steve, I'm a little bit of a talker.
No, that was not aimed at you, and I apologize. I had no idea how I came off a mute for that. I was remarking at something going on outside my window.
Okay.
But you can't beat the timing, though. You
Yeah.
can't beat the timing.
Perfect. Oh, thank you for that. That was a much needed laugh. And then we'll have some informational items for you. We have the Academy Vanguard Drive project update. So the project manager will hopefully come and give an update on where we're at with that project. Excited that we're moving forward. And then the Fireweed Lane Rehab project will come and give an update. So I will say the project team for Fireweed has been doing a remarkable job at the outreach effort with the public and with the different agencies. I think they have some really, really cool ideas and options that they'll be talking about, and I'm very excited for that project. And that's all I had for the next TAC meeting. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Aaron. I will be out for that one, so I'll defer to have Ben be the chair for me and have a replacement sit in my spot. But yep, so okay, so now we're on to then item 7, committee comments. Go
At the
ahead.
risk of getting told no,
Okay, let's do it first. Go ahead, Steve.
yeah, at the risk of getting told no, can I share my screen for a second?
Okay,
Of course.
do it.
All right, let me do this. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yeah, since you need an engraved invitation to come down to the port, I thought I would give you a little bit of a visual progress report on where we are as of today on the first part of demolishing and replacing one of the cargo terminals for the first new one. And what you're looking at basically is what used to be the transit shed and the old port offices. CEI has had the demolition contract. They started very early in March, and nothing is left. As of today, they're doing some cleanup work on what is the foundation for the buildings that were originally on the dock, but pretty much everything there is gone. And when I say everything, what I'm talking about is that which was here in September 1961 when they cut the ribbon on the Port of Anchorage. So all of that vertical structure is gone. And we will use this area over here for staging some of the construction materials for construction of the first cargo dock, which is going to happen waterside of where you see those cranes. So things are changing. And I know it's been a while since some of you may have been down here, so I thought I would share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve, for the comments and the update and the pictures. Okay, and then Ms. Duber?
Yeah, just a couple of heads ups. Our gravel trains are starting, I think, next week. So will be happening, and our passenger trains start up mid-May. And then just so everyone's aware, we are having an open house again in Anchorage on May 3rd. So that's a full event. You can come down, ride the train for free for a little bit, get on our equipment, press all the buttons. So it's hard for the maintenance people to figure out how to get it moving back to where it should be. It's a good time. So just wanted to let everyone know those things are going on.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Melinda.
I have a new staff update for project management and engineering. We have a new project manager, which is Charles Bang. And then alongside him, we've also hired Rebecca Carroll for our project administrator, and we're still working on other staff hires.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Melinda. Other committee comments? I have one to share. So the municipality of Anchorage is now officially a NACDO affiliated city. So we just found that out last week, which means that we have access to all things NACDO, peer networks, discount on attending their conference, and definitely opportunities to collaborate. One of the areas of my particular interest is winter city design standards and peer coordination. So hitting that one kind of hard. So we'll see how all of that goes with all the things that NACDO provides. So now we get to not just have an insider perspective and opportunity, but have a chance to also influence NACDO in those ways. So really looking forward to that opportunity. I guess two other things is that with the thaw, the weight restrictions are going to be in place next week. And so as we're trying to protect our infrastructure from during the breakup, the road base. So weight restrictions coming into place, and also a reminder to remove studded tires. So I think we're getting to that point that it's good to not have them anymore. So take them off for the summer. So those are my updates. Any other committee comment? Okay, so we'll move on to item 8, public comments. And I did see some online had requested to have some time making some public comments.
Yep, I'm the one that left the message in the chat.
Okay, go for it. You got 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm on the Eagle River Valley Community Council, and we have a project on the transportation plan, and we've been trying to figure out just kind of the timeline or what the status is. And I spoke to somebody at the Alaska DOT office, and this is for the Eagle River Road pathway. It's NMO00015. And they thought that the design was going to be happening this year, like an in-house design at the DOT, but they haven't received the funding. And I guess I'm trying to find out when they will get that so they can start the design process. And then I also noticed on your agenda, one of the documents on the table 3, that job is listed, and it looks like maybe there's some changes that have been made to it because the text is red, and I'm not an expert at reading these tables with all of the funding sources. So maybe you could help educate me on what changed or what's going on here.
Okay, well, thank you for your comment. Typically with public comment, we're not necessarily like having a conversation or discussion, but I think if you know, we can provide a quick response, or I can put you in touch.
Yeah, I can provide a quick response. So we did receive funding, it looks like in 2024. So that job or that project design has been funded. We're still in the early stages, and it looks like the construction funding is occurring beyond 2026. I don't have an update on exactly what year we're planning construction to occur there. So sorry, I don't have better.
Okay, so the DOT does have the funding to start design?
Correct.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. I'm glad that Luke was able to give you an answer. Okay, so are there any other comments from the public?
There is another written comment. Lindsay, did you want to speak to your comment now or just share it in the chat?
Sure, I can just kind of speak to it briefly. I missed the opportunity to comment when you were on the functional classification update, so I just wanted to share some thoughts that I'm excited to see the table and some of the recommendations, but I'm disappointed that the Alaska-specific criteria in reviewing functional classifications doesn't include anything about safety, crashes, deaths, especially for pedestrian safety, I think should be addressed really at every level of how we plan our roadways. And so if it's possible for AMATs or for any of you all, as you submit comments or recommendations for this process, I'll just encourage comments on the functional classification criteria as well to see how we can better kind of align everything that we're doing with Vision Zero and things like that to actually make a difference on our roads.
Thank you. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Oh, yes. Lindsay Hyduke. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Lindsay. Are there other members of the public who would like to make a public comment? Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay, so my turn. I have some announcements to make as well. So first of all, I'd like to announce that we have a couple of new staff at AMATS. We have been able to fill both of our senior planner positions. So the first one will be filled by Rhiannon Brown, who currently works in the land use zoning side of things for the planning department of the municipality of Anchorage. So Sorry, planning, but Melissa's not here, so she'll beat me later, so it's okay. But we're very excited. Rhiannon will be taking over the MTP and helping with that, along with bringing any of her expertise on other things that she wants to do. We also have a second announcement. Emily Weiser is going to be joining us as our other senior planner. So she will be taking over the non-motorized coordinator. So we have two excellent new hires that are joining the awesome staff we already have with us. And I do want to just shout out to the amazing work that Christine and Leify do. They have both kept AMATs going, especially the last year before Leify joined us. Christine did a yeoman's work keeping me grounded and sane while also helping to work on things like plain language in our documents, as you can see. So I can't extend my appreciation for everybody at AMAT's staff, the two that we have here and then the two that are coming in. So we will be fully staffed by the end of April. And it's just tired. I'm really ready for sleep. So, but it's really good for that. We have the newsletter coming out soon. So very excited for that. As was mentioned earlier, we are having some issues with air quality in our area. So please be reminded that if you're going to be cleaning up gravel or anything in your area, please wet it down first before you clean it up to help with reducing getting dust in the air. I also do want to say thank you for Lori. Anybody who's ever done minutes knows the amount of work that goes into that. Oh my gosh. So she does a lot of work and she has to put up with my craziness. So it's appreciated. So yeah, I won't be here again at the TAC until June. So everybody enjoy your time off. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. One question on the new hires. Does that mean that the committees will be
yes,
restarted again?
Yes, we've met with most of the committees already. BPAC, CAC met to discuss the TIP and amendment MTP, and they submitted comments on that. So we're grateful for that. We'll go ahead and get those started up again on a regular basis. FAC met with some of the freight committee members last week. We're going to have to do some work on there because the chair left and all that other kind of stuff. They're very excited to get that started up again. So we will start that up. And then we'll be looking at how best to streamline our subcommittees moving into the future. So we're looking forward to that.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that is exciting news. It'll be great to have those additional staff and continue to make great progress. So thanks for holding on the fort, everyone. Thanks, Aaron, for the update. Okay. Any other public comments? Seeing none, then we'll move to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. We're going Mr. Boland.
Second.
Second by Ms. Kohlhaas. We're adjourned
I got an easy one.
at 2:55 p.m.